I've been with this a long time. Richard, how you doing, Tom?
Well, Richard, it looks like,
I just finished season 1, episode 10, Forgiveness and stuff, and y'all, woo! Okay, let's dive into the plot. The big 2 plot points was basically this was a fallout of what happened in the last episode. Lorelai gets uninvited to her mom's Christmas party, which she has never been uninvited, and this year she gets uninvited. And at the Christmas party, Richard, her father, passes out, and it turns out he has an angina. Y'all, this episode made me remember why I love Luke so much. Luke was like the man in this episode. So Lorelai found out that her dad was taken to the hospital while she was getting dinner at Luke's. Luke drops everything. He gives everyone that's in his restaurant free food. He gives his keys to Taylor Dozy and he's like, here, you close up. I'm taking Lorelai to Hartford to go see your dad. Like, he drops everything, and that was so romantic, so sweet. And just the fact, like, even when Luke is at the hospital, he doesn't like hospitals. They kind of freak him out. But he goes for Lorelai. And Rory, of course. And Rory. But he goes for her, and he stays at the hospital. Like, he's watching people go by. Like, some guy has a hammer in his head. Like, he's seeing all these stuff, and he's like trying to close his eyes. But he's staying for Lorelai. Like, that is a big thing. And he's like Lorelai's support system at that moment. The fact that he went to a place he's not comfortable for just to be there for her. Like, y'all, it was so sweet. Yeah, so Luke is the one that actually gets Lorelai to go into her father's room because Lorelai is scared of seeing her dad in a vulnerable state. She's scared of seeing him like in that position. And so Luke's the one that encourages her to go, and Lorelai, like right before she goes into his room, like she looks at Luke and Luke's like, go, do it. And then she's able to have the strength to go in and see her dad. And how I started this video is my favorite moment from this episode, and honestly, like, it has always stood with me, even the first time I saw it, like years ago. I just love how the moment between Lorelai and her father, how no words are spoken and they just look at each other, but so much is said in just the looks. Like, I get the feels so much in watching that scene, and I'm not gonna lie, it tears me up because I think it's one of the sweetest things. Like, they have an understanding, so much is getting said, like, it's unspoken, but you can feel like they did that scene so well, and it's amazing, and I love it so much. Yeah, Luke, he carried this episode, and this is also, I feel like, the first time you really see the beginning of the relationship between Lorelai and Luke, because Lorelai tells Luke that he looks good, like he always looks good, and Luke is like, oh, like he like immediately stands up right, and he's like, okay, and he like gets extra cocky, and like he feels so special about it. And then at the end of the episode, Lorelai, as a thank you, she gives him this blue basketball cap, and I am just curious. I want to find out the color because I want to see if he starts wearing that cap in future episodes. He switches his cap, and now it's like the blue basketball cap that Lorelai gave him. Like, I'm so curious. I want to see if that is the case. And so Lorelai and her mom, at the beginning of the episode, they still aren't talking because everyone's still upset. So many things were said in the last episode. And so Lorelai gets uninvited from her mom's Christmas party. In her 33 years of life, she has never been uninvited. She was sick when she was young. She still had to go. And so this is a big deal that Emily Gilmore is like, you don't have to come. The thing is, Emily disinvites Lorelai, but she doesn't tell anyone else that she uninvited her. So even at the party, everyone's asking where Lorelai is, and Emily's like, oh, she's sick, or she got sick at work. And even like Richard, Emily's husband, Lorelai's father, doesn't even know that Emily disinvited her. Like, she's just hiding it from everyone, and everyone looks forward to Lorelai at these Christmas parties because there's like these apple dumplings that Lorelai loves. Like, she sings songs about them. Like, they're such a big deal, and everyone's like, oh, is she over there about the dumplings, eating them? And so everyone just likes Lorelai because she's the life of the party. But yeah, so that was the kind of big thing that she got uninvited, and then this happened. But then this episode also brought all the characters together because now Rory and Lorelai, they have a heart-to-heart. Or, I know you didn't do anything, I know you and Dean didn't get into anything, but you have to understand my perspective and understand how scary it was for me to realize you didn't come back. So they have a heart-to-heart, and that means a lot. Then Lorelai and her mom have a heart-to-heart, and Lorelai is able to be there when her mom needs her the most because her mom's like freaking out. She's being really rude to like the hospital staff, and so Lorelai is able to guide her and help her. And even at the end, Lorelai sends Rory home with Luke, and Lorelai's like, I'm gonna stay in case anyone needs me. And that's what she tells her mom. And so at the end of the episode, the mom's like, hey, do you want to go get something to eat? And so they kind of like came together too. So this was kind of the episode of forgiveness. It's called Forgiveness and Stuff for a reason because there was so much forgiveness going on in this episode. And I also feel like it was just them coming together because they were all at odds, all on different sides of the playing field at the moment. And then by the end of the episode, they had all come together because Richard brought them together, essentially. And so I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I thought it was so good. It just kind of, it was a very deep episode, I think, too. Like, I was definitely in my emotions. That whole scene with Lorelai and her father gets me every time. Like, so nothing was said, but so much was said. And so, yeah. So I'm very excited to see where we go on from here. Dean was in this episode just for a little bit, trying to find Rory because Rory hasn't been responding to his calls since they stayed out before. And so he, like, bangs on the window. So Lorelai and Dean actually have a talk. And she's like, I don't like you right now, but that will change. And so at the end of the episode, when she sends Rory home with Luke, she's like, hey, call Dean, talk, figure stuff out. And so it's kind of like everyone just comes together. Like, everything's forgotten because they realize there's bigger issues, you know, which kind of is a big thing. I mean, that's kind of life. Like, sometimes things can seem so big, but when you take a step back, you realize that it's so small compared to other big items. And so sometimes you just kind of have to take things in perspective. Like, you can be caught up in the moment, but you just kind of have to realize sometimes, like, reel it back. Like, okay, how big is this compared to this, you know? But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It was kind of something I needed to, I think, right now. So yeah, forgiveness and stuff. It was a really good episode. Okay, I will see you guys when we talk about the next episode. See y'all soon. This has been another episode of Real Talk with Noelle.